Please, the show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Turning a Moment into a Movement. I am J Love, and I represent the Justice for Gerard movement. Gerard is my son, who was wrongfully incarcerated, served 2 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections for a crime he didn't do. Innocent, but in prison. In prison, he already suffered from severe Crohn's disease. He ended up contracting COVID. And just so many other things just happened to him during that journey. And from that journey, birthed this journey, which is called Turning a Moment into a Movement. And we come here every Friday at 6 p.m. to educate, advocate, and bring awareness to wrongful convictions and injustices that happen within the criminal justice system. So welcome and thank you for joining us. So we have a great panel. I'm going to bring them on and let them introduce themselves. And then we're going to bring in our guests for today and have a really awesome conversation. So I'm going to bring in Miss Trisha Duckworth. Hey.
Hey, y'all.
I saw you in the car. I'm like, let me bring Trisha in right now. Where are you going?
You know what? I am rolling. I had a commitment that I had to get to, but this is a commitment too. And so we are here. Please excuse the exterior, Jay, because I know it goes against everything that we stand for. So my apologies on that. My name is Trisha Duckworth, the executive director and founder of Survivor Speak. And when it comes to wrongful convictions, they must end. Simple as that. We got to hold people accountable, those that continue to put individuals in prison that don't belong there. And when it comes to that work and whose responsibility is, each and every one of ours, regardless of whether we have loved ones that are incarcerated or not, it's going to be on all of us to hold people accountable. And that's why we're here each and every week.
Thank you. So while I got you talking, I'm going to put up the slide because I want you to save the date for the Wrongful Conviction Summit.
Yeah, so we are excited to be back with the summit this year. It was on hold of last year with COVID, but we're back. And we are bringing in the families, those that have been released. We are bringing in legislators. We're bringing everybody to the table to have this conversation. We are hosting this along with Turning a Moment into a Movement, the Justice for Gerard movement, and the Real Black Coffee. So we're excited to have our partners on this year, and we need you all there. Now, I know everybody's wondering where it's at. Where is it going to be at? Where is it going to be at? It's going to be in Detroit for sure, but we are waiting to get word from the venue. Of course, with the way that COVID is going, even right now, you know, we still got to follow these guidelines. And so, but we will have that information out soon, but please save that date, October the 2nd. We all know that is Wrongful Conviction Awareness Day. So it is a very important day. And the only thing that will be missing from that day, if you don't make it, will be you. So please don't miss this. Please come on out.
Exactly. Yes. I'm looking forward to the summit and everything, all the great people that's going to be joining us. I can't wait for National Wrongful Conviction Day, October the 2nd.
Yes.
So, hey. Hi, Attorney Hugo, Mack.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey there.
My sisters, how are you?
Oh, great. How about yourself?
Doing great. Praise God. Praise God.
Yes, introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Hugo Mack. I'm a criminal defense attorney. And I want to let you know, first of all, J Love and Trisha, what an honor it is for me to be in this group. You know, when Trisha said it's each and every one of our responsibilities to end wrongful conviction, she's right. And, you know, the message I try to preach all the time is to people who think they're not affected, people who say, well, I don't have anybody that's ever been charged with anything. All my people are law-abiding citizens, you know. I don't break the law, you know, so it really don't mean nothing to me. Well, unfortunately, until it hits your family, unless you're a person who is very sensitive to humanity, you really don't understand, you see. And so when you talk about people's responsibility, I start where I am with members of the bar, all right? And particularly criminal defense attorneys, all right? And I was a public defender for well over a decade, and people can get tired. They get tired, they get burned out, you know, they start want to take shortcuts. And so my admonition to all criminal defense attorneys, if you're getting tired, take a rest, take a break, because somebody's life in jeopardy is on the line. You know, when a person goes to court and that jury is sworn in a bench trial, or the first witness jury sworn in a jury trial, or the first witness testifies in a bench trial, jeopardy attaches to that person, okay? And that jeopardy is only going to end in a couple ways: an acquittal or a conviction, all right? It's going to end in only one or two ways, and that's it. And when you get to that big stage, that is no place for a defense attorney to be half-assed and, excuse my language, his or her way through that, because it is so easy. It is so easy for a person to be wrongfully convicted. And I don't care what we say about the criminal justice system in the United States. It is the best in the world, but that far from makes it effective. Because when you get men and women on that jury, they bring their prejudices with them. I don't care what they say about, you know, well, I've seen all these terrible things about black people on the news and robbing and looting and all that, but this is a robbery case, but that doesn't affect me. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It affects all of us. And the thing we need to do from Jump Street is say, well, yeah, I kind of do have a feeling about certain people, rightfully or wrongfully. See, so to me, the greatest harm is not having a prejudice. The greatest harm is in trying to cover it up. Okay? Because a person like that should not be on a jury. If you've got a criminal defense attorney who's going through the motions, they should not be a criminal defense attorney. If you've got a prosecutor that's trying to rack up convictions in order to make themselves look good because they want to be a senator or a governor or something like that, that person should not be a prosecutor. And oh, dear Lord God, if you got a judge that is there and thinks that role belongs to them, think that they own that courtroom, think that they are somehow, because they sit up higher on a bench above everybody else in the courtroom, that they're somehow anointed by God. Oh, dear Lord God, that man or woman don't need to be on that bench. Don't need to be on that bench. So anyway, that's my position. That's my passion, to keep the wrongfully convicted out of the system, because once you get in, I can tell you from personal experience, it is hell. It's hell. Prison and incarceration is hell on the guilty. It is hell times infinity for the innocent.
Exactly. And so if you guys want to connect with attorney Hugo Mack, his website info is right there on the screen. And even with Trichet and all of our guests, they're here as your resources. If you guys need them, just connect with them or connect with me and I will connect you with them. So next is, greetings, Reverend Tia.
Well, hello there, everybody. I'm so glad to be here this evening. And I'm telling you, Jay, you got us on something that is really, really can't let go of now. And I believe that we are at the right time, in the right place, for the right purpose of doing what is right. Yes. And, you know, just looking at wrongful convictions, we could just start off with the fact that it's wrong. So I'm a minister over at one of the leading non-denominational churches in the city of Detroit. I have been working as an advocate in social justice for more than 20 years. And I've also been in mental health for more than 20 years. So that means I started when I was 2. Anyway. Exactly. And right now I am working on my doctorate so that I can affect policy and change within systems we have entire infrastructures that are built upon discriminatory practices. And this is one of them that if we don't correct it, it's one of the main branches. It's one of the main branches. This is our whole criminal system, our whole judicial system is based and entrenched in bias. And they have all of these things that they want to do to try to say that, well, we can make it equal. Now, this is the latest one that I've heard. And the latest one was, what if we make it totally blind? That means the prosecutors and no one sees the people involved. Mm-hmm. Make it blind so they can't see who it is that they're prosecuting. Have you heard that? And all because they don't want to correct themselves. All because they don't want to admit what we were doing was wrong. They'd rather go at it blind so I can't see you. Well, that means to me that you are unfit, to serve the people if you can't look at people and make the right decision. That means you are not fit. And this platform is created so that we can educate people on how to make these kinds of changes in the community. So those people who are not fit to serve can get their behinds out of office and go wherever else they need to go to. Hopefully on one of those ships to the moon or, somewhere.
Right. Yes. Welcome, Varica. Attorney Hugo Mack. I don't know which is. Okay, say that again, Attorney Hugo Mack.
I'm sorry, I just had to blur it in. McDonald's is always hiring. So,
Greetings, Varica. Hello. How are you today?
I am doing great, and how are you guys?
We're great. Introduce yourself and tell us what it is that you do.
And thank you. It's great to be here. You guys in the audience don't realize it, but I'm just getting in. I'm literally running from work, which consists of taking and doing expungements today. So if you are in the Ypsilanti area, they are doing expungements right now at 1301 South Harris Road, Ypsilanti, Michigan. They're literally doing expungements right now. And I literally been there for the last several hours, and they'll be there for several more hours. People are getting their formal convictions expunged. The whole process is right there. All you got to do is show up. Trish, you probably can tell them the name of that center better than I can. That's a community center. They're here in Ypsilanti. They provide all sorts of services. Get yourself down there tonight. My name is Edward Sanders. I go by the name of Varica. I'm a recent graduate at University of Michigan School of Social Work. I presently taking work at the Washington County Prosecutor's Office in the Conviction, Integrity, and Expungement Unit. I am myself a formerly incarcerated person. I won't use the term a returning citizen because no one goes to prison and return with his or her constitutional right. So I refuse to take and refer to myself as a returning citizen. Nobody gave me my citizen right since I came home. In fact, I'm there taking and helping people getting their convictions expunged and can't get my own conviction expunged because it was too much damn time. And that's a damn shame because I was 17 years old when I got that conviction that's supposed to take and follow me now for the rest of my entire life. So I'm very appreciative for being here in this space. I'm very appreciative that Tia Lil John will be called doctor soon, and she'll have more solutions for this situation. Just like Attorney Hugo Mack, he will have more solutions for this situation. And just like Trish Duckworth, she'll be more active out there in the community about this type of situation. and J Love, who took and turned a single moment into a movement relevant to her own situation. And this is what we need to take and learn how to do. We need to take and learn how to look at our own situation and be able to tie it in to the greater society, to the larger society, and answer the greater questions and issues that are facing all of us. So thank you very much. I'm very appreciative for being here, and I hope to contribute to this conversation we're going to have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you repeat that address again, just in case somebody needed to get it?
That address is 1301 South Harris Road, Ypsilanti, Michigan, 48198. That's that community center right there. Right there, there's a church there, and there's a community center. So if you live in the area, you're familiar with it. Get yourself down there. You don't need to do anything but show up. There are multiple people there to take and assist you. People have been coming and going all day. The first thing they would do after you give them your personal information, they will look to see whether or not you qualify. Once they validate that you qualify, they will begin to take and do the process of literally processing you to take and have those convictions taken off you, so that whatever dreams you got, like Lil John here, where she's dreaming to be a doctor, and that ain't no little dream.
Mm-hmm.
She's dreaming to take and put a PhD on her damn name, if not a darn MD. Okay, so she's doing the thing, and if you got a dream like that, whatever that dream is, get yourself down there and get that darn conviction off of you, or those 2 convictions off you, or those 3 convictions off you, because that's what the new law allows you to do now. It allows you to take off not 1 conviction, not 2 convictions, but 3 felonies. As long as you couldn't got life on those felonies, you can get those felonies removed from you, and as many misdemeanors as possible. And forget about that guy here in Ypsilanti that's talking about the prosecutor shouldn't be doing this kind of thing. Hell with him. We shouldn't be listening to him. Go down there and get your get that darn conviction off you and move on. Do like Eddie Kendricks. Keep on trucking. Thank you again.
Thank you.
It's Grace Fellowship Church. It's Grace Fellowship Church, 1301 Harris Road, Ypsilanti.
Okay. So hopefully everybody got that. It's going on just for today, right? Yes. Okay.
Yes. This is a expungement fair that's going on right now today.
Okay.
There'll be others that are organized in the community with Washington Community College and others, but this one is going on right now. If you can do it today, don't delay it for tomorrow. Get down there and take care of today. Get down there and take care of today. Grab somebody that you know that also is situated like you, and take them down there with you, and y'all take and do the thing.
Yes, thank you for that info. And so I want to say, before we go any further, stop and share this link. Share. The more we share, the more people can get this information, and more people can be helped. And that's why we're here, to help others. So I want to bring on our guest. I want to show a video of him first, because he's having trouble with his video. So we may or may not see him, but I'm going to play a video of him. And this was at one of Trisha Survivor Speaks event. I got this is video courtesy of Survivor Speak.
My name is Abdul Hakeem. Many of you know me as Roberto. I'm an activist in the Detroit area, and I'm also a paralegal at work. My experience in these cases, I see a common denominator, and my discussion is limited to Wayne County. And the common denominator in a lot of these cases is that we have repeat offender officers who, going back 20, 30 years, even longer, framed a lot of these people in prison. And I heard some catchphrases here about criminal justice reform and dismantling the old system, which sounds pretty good, but let's do something about it. Why is Officer Russell, who coerced a 14-year-old kid named Devontae Sanford into a false confession of 4 murders, still interrogating people, and homicide until just recently? So when you want to talk about dismantling the system and true criminal justice reform, until you start putting these corrupt, deceitful, and dirty prosecutors and police in prison, we're going to keep holding these rallies, and we're going to get nowhere. At terrible expense to the taxpayers. And let me tell you something, taxpayers, fellow citizens, they're embroiled in a very bitter federal civil lawsuit in Devontae Sanford's case now. Wonder why? Because for 8 years, they needlessly fought an appeal when they had evidence of his innocence in his hands 2 weeks after he pled guilty. What was that? Vincent Smothers' confession. He could have only done 2 weeks in prison. He did 8 years. Why am I angry? Because in Islam we are taught, O ye who believe, testify truthfully, even if you must testify against yourself. It emphasizes being truthful. There was no truth in what they did to that young man. And I didn't know him a day in my life, but it's personal to me. Because why? When we live in a system that says our justice system is the best in the world, but then you know what? It should not allow room for error and misconduct of this nature. And all the dress rehearsal and fancying that's going on is not going to do us any good until we get true criminal justice reform. I'd like to see Sergeant Russell put in prison for what he did to that young man. That this doesn't upset me. It is upsetting. As an American, born here, I am upset. Because if they did it to him, they would do it to you. Or your 14-year-old son. That was a 14-year-old kid. That makes it particularly egregious. So all the ideas that are flowing here today, they're wonderful, but let's not just say it, let's do something about it. But let's put these corrupt cops in prison.
Yeah, so welcome to Turning a Moment to a Movement. Mr. Abdul Hakeem, hello.
Hello, J Love. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm so sad that we can't see you, but
I am too. As you can probably tell, I'm not technologically savvy. At the office, we have IT people to resolve all these things, and I apologize to everyone. I should hire a tech here at home. That's in the works. So the next time it will be working. I apologize.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have you back so we can see you fully. But yes, tell everyone, introduce yourself and tell everyone what it is that you do, and then we'll get into it.
Sure. I'm a paralegal in the Detroit area. I've been working in this profession for 26 years. I focus my practice primarily on appellate work in the civil and criminal profession. I work at an area law firm. I do mostly civil litigation. So a lot of the criminal stuff I do on my own time. And to latch on to what Trisha and Mr. Mack said earlier, we can't take the attitude that, well, it's not my loved one, everybody in my family is law abiding and it's not my issue. That sort of complacent attitude is dangerous. And in a society where we all can say that, I'm entitled to due process of law, and that's true. And it takes all of us to formulate this caucus, to have this collective effort to fight against these wrongs, fight against these corrupt people, these people we put in office. Prosecutors are elected, judges are elected, and we expect them to do their job. And your job is not to convict by any means and not to dispose of people's lives without the guarantees of due process and all the other constitutional guarantees they're entitled to at trial. This is textbook lessons we learned in constitutional law in high school. Mm-hmm. And we're experiencing it. I don't take the attitude that it's not my problem because, as I said in that video, it could happen to me one day. It could happen to our loved one. And I don't want to wait for that to happen before I take a stand on that. That's what has driven me, given me the drive to rise up and speak out against these wrongs. And what's particularly disturbing in areas like Wayne County, Washtenaw County, and Detroit, and anyone who denies this is fooling themselves. The other problem is a lot of the wrongfully convicted people are indigent African American men.
Yeah.
There is an inherent institutionalized racism when it comes to guaranteeing them their due process rights. And all you have to be is human to rise up and say, this is wrong to treat people like this. You can't compensate anyone for all the years you took from them. And I can't help but every time go back to what they did to Devontae Sanford. And if anyone thinks that it took that prosecutor 8 years to confess his innocence because, a state police officer lied about a sketch when she had evidence of his innocence in her hands during those 8 years, you are a fool to believe that, because it's disturbing. It's disturbing at all levels. And it's not just prosecutors, it's also a failure of the defense system, corrupt police, judges who rule from their whims. They ignore the facts and the law. The whole system is a failure. It is a failure. I had a judge who totally mischaracterized the new evidence of a witness's affidavit. Are you kidding me? A layperson can look at this judge's ruling and say she didn't care. She didn't give the evidence any meaningful consideration. Lo and behold, we go to the Supreme Court. They agreed with us and remanded it. It's a waste of judicial resources is what I'm saying. So you got these judges who are also making these rulings that are bizarre. It shows they don't give a damn about the new evidence of innocence. And it's a waste of judicial resources, wasting these people's lives in prison when all you have to do is what? Do the right thing the first time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, you said a mouthful. You're right.
It disturbs me because I work in this profession, and I'm ashamed to say I work in a profession that says we have the best justice system in the world. Thank God we don't have the death penalty. We have the best justice system in the world when you're disposing of innocent African-American men and women's lives like this. This is a crime in itself. And you got these police who are being promoted to the Attorney General's office, for God's sake, who was at the Detroit Police Department, who had a career of framing dozens of African-American men, and she's at the Attorney General's office. There's no accountability. There's no accountability. They're unionized employees. They have these rights, that these police officers I'm talking about. There's just no accountability. That needs to change. They need to abandon this immunity, because what it does is give them a license to commit misconduct and frame people. They need to stop prosecutorial immunity. They need to stop police officer immunity. And here's another interesting thing. I see all of these rallies and it's good, we have to rally. But when we fold our tents up and go home, the change is not happening because, for instance, until we abandon this immunity defense that police and prosecutors are given. Because like I said, it's a crime in itself. What happened to Devontae Sanford was a crime in itself. And what happened to all of them is a crime. And, everybody still has their jobs. And so there's also this illusion, if you will, that, justice comes in the form of compensation. Are you kidding me? While the corrupt police officer still has his job and he's still framing people? Where's the justice in that? There is none.
Right. And when there's no accountability, justice is denied. I mean, it happened to my son. And I see Devontae Sanford's mother is in the chat. And she said it happened to her son. And I met other mothers in Wayne County. It happened to their sons. I met somebody, it happened to their daughter. Like, these things are happening while we're sitting here just in our bubble. And that's why I'm doing this. Like, hey, if it happened to me, if it happened to her son, it could clearly and easily happen to you. Don't wait till it come knocking on your door to say something. I just had a mother just call me the other day about something happened to her son, and now she gets it. But we shouldn't have to wait until something happened to get it.
No.
We want to prevent it from happening. We don't want people to serve 20 and 30 years in prison and say, okay, we letting them out because we made a mistake.
And have a good day.
Yeah, and no accountability, nothing stopped. Because in 30 years, that whole mindset has been through the whole system. So they got away with it 30 years ago, and 30 years worth of other people that came behind them. The same thing has happened to them because there's nobody there to stop it. So you're right. We need accountability. And one way is absolutely get rid of qualified immunity and absolute immunity.
Yes, they're a license to commit misconduct. That's all they are. Immunity is a bar to accountability. It's an archaic law borrowed from common law. I don't want to hear all that no more. It is time for real change. Let me share this also. I also hear there's this call out there, and I've shared this with a few exonerees. The Conviction Integrity Unit here in Wayne County is now crying that they're broke and they need funds. Well, what's interesting is 2 years ago when I broached this issue with them, they told me they weren't worried about funding. And I understand everybody works for a living, that they have to get paid. But the sky was the limit when it was time to convict these people. Mm-hmm. You spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to fight these frivolous appeals. You had money for that. And also, you're going to the legislature to ask them to fund the Conviction Integrity Unit. Well, let me give you a little bit of civic procedure, how this works. The Wayne County prosecutor, all the county prosecutors, they're funded statutorily by the county executive. Mm. In my view, it's a waste of time to ask the legislator to fund the Conviction Integrity Units. They're not going to do it because the prosecutor's budget is fixed by law. She's to get her funding from the county executive, not the state legislature, number one. Number two, she raised all these millions of dollars for the rape kit investigation. She went to celebrities, she went to people locally, she went to all these wealthy people and got millions of dollars, and she should, because these rape kits sat dormant for a long time. I get it. And if somebody is guilty of it, yeah, they should be put in prison. But it's funny she's not out there trying to raise funds for the Conviction Integrity Unit. But you're going to the poor families of these wrongfully convicted people, asking them for funding, despite the emotional and financial cost you've already imposed upon them. You're asking us to donate for the Conviction Integrity Unit. And you're going to the legislature asking them to fund these county Conviction Integrity Units. Statutorily, they can't do that. But when you contrast the funds that they raised for the rape kit investigation versus not raising funds for the Conviction Integrity Unit, and yet they're saying they're so broke and they got a backlog of cases. Oh, I bet you do. But is it our problem? So the innocent person should sit in prison because now funding is an issue. And let me add this. While some people are going to these millionaire celebrities giving speeches, tell them to put their money where their mouth is and donate some of their millions to the Conviction Integrity Unit to help these people get polygraph exams, to help these people hire lawyers. Because they say they're broke. Well, the sky was the limit when it came to convicting these people.
Yes.
And because they're broke, it's no reason they should sit in prison.
Absolutely.
See, and can I say something, J.
Yes,
Love?
go ahead. Yes.
See, another problem is campaign finance law. I've been sitting here, I've just got a brain freeze. There was that Supreme Court case, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so, or maybe more than that, where the Supreme Court said that money is synonymous with speech. All right. And that opened up the floodgates for all kinds of dark money going into these campaigns. And the problem is, without campaign finance reform, if you don't have a war chest, okay, if you don't have a war chest that you can build up on, it's very difficult to run for office. It's very difficult because, the media exposure, the the door knocking, the pamphlets. You see, because I personally am of the opinion there should be nobody that's in elected office that should not be challenged the next time they up for election. There's nobody that should not be challenged, or at least have the specter of a challenge from the community that, look, we are watching you, okay? And if you continue or if you deviate from social justice, then we will find someone to run against you, all right? We will knock on doors, we'll have bake sales, we will do whatever we need to do to have another voice out there. And the problem is a lot of well-qualified people just get scared. Maybe there's something in their past that they know people are going to use against them, or they don't have the kind of money, they need, but they're qualified. So part of it is campaign finance reform, where these people build up these war chests. They have a man that used to be governor of the state of New York until a few days ago. This man has $18 million in a war chest that he can use for whatever he wants to do, all right? So if I'm in New York or Touché is in New York, I think Touché would make a fine governor. But you see, the thing of it is that we've got to be able to compete with that and have resources to be able to deal with that, and the average person simply doesn't. And then another thing, another problem we have is, and we got to be honest about our society. There is something about American society, I don't know if it's, part of it is inherent racism and classism and sexism, where people like to see somebody else in trouble. They like to see somebody with the legal system on top of them. Maybe it makes them feel good because it's not them, or maybe they vent in some kind of repressed anger or whatever that is, or a maladjusted sense of social norm. But people will actually support these individuals that are running for judge when it sounds like they're running for damn sheriff. There's a difference between a judge and a sheriff, you understand? And so it always pisses me off when I see these campaigns, particularly for Mr. Supreme Court Justice, where people talking about just so-and-so in the appellate court, she's tough on crime. She's tough on crime. She's real law and order. What the hell does that mean? What the hell does that mean? And when you really break it down, when they talk about tough on crime, that means they're tough on your constitutional rights and minimizing them. That's what that really means. That means giving a blind eye to police misconduct. It means giving a blind eye to prosecutor misconduct. And I've seen it for decades, and it pisses me off and it sickens me. So what I'm saying is we've got to start addressing people in our own community who are willing to support these candidates because they want to see somebody get the screws put to them, as long as it ain't their mama, their daddy, Medea. It's somebody else that the screws put to them, and we can sit back with our popcorn and a Gatorade and watch the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh my goodness, I gotta jump in right there. Jay.
Go ahead.
Because we always want to hold our legislators accountable, and we should. But guess who votes them in? We do. I went to this meeting here in Washtenaw County, and I told them, I said, they did this big crew report, and and you can be 3 to 29 times likelier if you're Black to be prosecuted in Washtenaw County, and all these great findings. And I said, we have to own that for 28 years, we voted Brian Mackey in office. I'm guilty. Because why? Because I just went to the poll and I said, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by its toe, right? And there was nobody else to vote for. Let me just put that out there, right? But what I'm saying is we have to educate ourselves. We have to get real about this system. We know what we're working with. So why in the world, and that brings me to Wayne County, how could we ever put a renderer of injustice back in there knowing what she did? And we're talking about Devontae Sanford. She knew that man was innocent. She knew he was innocent, yet she withheld that information. See, we keep talking about the money this, the money that. Why she ain't going to celebrities? Because she knows she get that money, right? That's going to lead back to her doorstep. Working on the case, Michael Lawson, he's innocent. His co-defendant is out. And guess what? He's still in there. Guess why? Because all roads lead back to that office. So we got to get clear about what's going on and stop putting people in office that render injustice to us because we give them the pass to do it when we don't do our due diligence. It's not enough to just vote. We got to educate ourselves when we vote, and then we got to stay at the table and hold these people accountable. And that's just the bottom line. We can't blame them without blaming ourselves because we put them there.
So the blind denial starts with us. You know, we have to look again. I mean, the same thing we were saying last week. It started with us looking at ourselves first. You can't keep on doing the same thing and expecting a different result. That's called insanity. You have to start looking at this thing from a different lens and from a different way. And you have to also understand that you deserve it. It is your right. You have the power. All you have to do is step into it. Revertia.
So I was just getting ready to say that when it comes to money and compensation, we have to remember, we need to educate people that we have to know that people are giving you money to shut up. Mm-hmm. We can't go for the shut up money anymore. You know, where we just are okay because we got out, give me this money. I will still support you. I'll still vote for you. I will still back you because that money means for me to shut up about the truth about you as a horrible official, one who was elected to serve the people. Mm-hmm. You know, and you're not serving the people, you know, and so we have to know that as citizens, we need to be more mindful about what are we falling for. We can't just go for the okie doke. We just can't go for the money. And we need to mark those among us who are not right, call them out, and mark those who take the money, who take shut up money, and say, you know, I'm gonna tell you something. When I was younger, my grandmother, when you ate at her table, if you sold drugs in the community or you did something in the community or you disrespected your elders, you couldn't eat her food. And that helped you to know, just at home, in the beginning of all society is family. And at home, when you say you need to line up here first. And some of these people, we still eat with them. We still do all this stuff with them. And we don't want to call them out. We are so into technology, artificially intelligent, that we have masked so many things. And we don't want to even deal with the truth. And it's not because, you know, we see the truth all the time. It's because they can't handle the truth. And we want to pacify that. And that time is over.
Varica.
If I can share with your audience once again, and I have shared some of this with you guys before. When I was a kid, there was a church down the street from where I lived at in 1969. That church happened to be the church of Aretha Franklin's father on the corner of Linwood Avenue in Detroit. I literally lived down the street from that church at the time of this particular incident. Something very courageous happened in relationship to that church. And that was the Reverend Cyril Franklin Church was leased out to a group that was called at the time the New Republic of Africa. And they was holding a convention of some sort there. And the police was shot outside of the church.
Of the church, yes, I remember that.
And they took and claimed that the assailant ran inside of Reverend Franklin's church. And all of these white polices, because your police station precinct at that time were all white, blacks wasn't on the force, but for probably a few. They all literally took and came and ran up in that church. And when nobody took and identified the alleged assailant that's supposed to ran up in that church, they took and made a mass arrest. everyone in the church, every adult and every child in the church. They took out of their church and they took down to the precinct. And it was on a weekend. So they was intending to hold everyone there until some arrangement on business day. But the minister took and called the judge, and it happened to be a black judge. And at that time, if I'm correct, he was a single black judge on the recorder's court. If there was another one, it was no more than maybe one or two of them. But there were very few then. He stuck out like a sore thumb. He took an order to release all of those people. He ordered the release of all of them. And as a result, he earned the wrath of Detroit's white community, including the police, who took and protested on the court steps. They had bumper stickers on their cars rebuking this judge, arguing to impeach him, to remove him from the bench. They made death threats against him. Here we have the court before they took and turned it into the circuit court, a Wayne County Circuit Court from Detroit's Recorder's Court, where it was predominantly African American. And we've seen nothing to resemble that, with a majority African American sitting on the bench. But these same people want us to take and respond to them turning the court from a local court, a local city court, to a statewide county court, okay? Because they say they took away our power. Well, you wasn't using that power. If you was using that power, we would have responded. We haven't responded, and you need to quit that line about them having taken a power. You were powerless because since Judge Crockett showed the courageousness to take and throw out charges like that, we haven't seen anything to resemble that. We watched them take and convict the largest number of children in the United States. The second largest number of kids tried and convicted in this country literally came out of that single county, where the majority of the judges in that county are black. They sent more of their children into prisons than there were in captivity in terms of slavery. Okay, by the time the United States Supreme Court made a decision in terms of this being unconstitutional, there was over 2,500 children in this country that were incarcerated. The largest number, Michigan had the second largest number in the country, and the vast majority of those children came out of Wayne County. Mm-hmm. Black judges presided over those cases. Mm-hmm. And we see the same thing in regards to these individuals that comprise of the people who have been exonerated here in Michigan. The largest number of people that have been exonerated here in Michigan are black citizens out of Wayne County. Okay, I'm not just taking in the numbers. We recently hosted them here in Washtenaw County. We invited them here to our office to meet the team, the Conviction, Integrity, and Expungement Unit. They met myself. Many of them already knew me from the penitentiary. I served time with them. Even the last case, the last gentleman whose case I worked it on as a jailhouse attorney, he was invited as well. He didn't show up. He had car trouble, but I seen him just a few weeks later at the Detroit Yacht Club, where one of the returning gentlemen took and gave a birthday party where he honored all of the other exonerees. But my point is that we don't have this type of courageousness. They are afraid to take and be anything other than the establishment. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so we should treat them like such. We should respond to them like such. If we're going to respond to somebody, it ain't somebody on that bench. They're typically out there in the street protesting. They're typically taking and running a grassroots organization. They're typically in prison. They're typically coming out of prison. If we want to hear somebody, then that's the voices that we should be listening to today, and not those who are taking and putting people in confinement by these large numbers, and then we turn around and say, oh, we made a mistake in sending these many people to prison for whatever, whether we're talking about marijuana, where we just had a gentleman that was released. He was the longest residing person in the state of Michigan for marijuana, okay, or for a drug, for a non-violent offense, which was a drug offense. Which I've prayed with that guy up in Kimross. Me and this guy lived in the same gym area, which used to be Air Force base. We lived back in the gym together, and me and this person woke up in the morning and went to bed at night, taking and praying together. And I came out of prison before him with a first-degree murder case. Okay, so I'm just saying, we don't owe them no allegiance. We don't owe them no allegiance. They're not doing anything. What they may get elected by us, but once they get in office, is the status quo. So leave them to the status quo, period.
Yeah, the saying those is closer to the problem is closer to the solution. You can't have the person who created the problem to solve the problem. That just sounds so insane. Every time I hear them saying stuff like, you guys created this problem. Now we're trying to fight to, every day to keep our loved ones out of these prisons and these bogus crimes, even, bogus sentences. I think Michigan was number 2 last year of the most exonerated people that were out of the United States, Michigan. So we definitely have a problem here. We can't just sit back and wait for somebody to save us. That's why we created this platform, because we're not trying to wait for somebody to come. We have to save ourselves. And that means we're going to have to come together. We're going to have to create some policies. We're going to have to sit down and have these conversations. And that's why we come here on Fridays to have these conversations. So we know where to go. Abdul.
Can I want to, I heard you mention that term. We had I think the first or the second largest exonerations last year, and that's true in a sense. But let me clarify something about that, because you know what's been troubling me here in Detroit, in Wayne County, with the local media too, and this exoneree movement, if you will. And the exonerees, they all know this. When you hear the word exoneration, what do you think that means? That you've been found innocent, right? Well, what's interesting, and the Detroit news and the local media here is grossly misrepresenting to the public that these people were, quote unquote, found innocent. And Tia made a good point, and I just love what she said. You can't throw hush money at me and expect me not to still speak the truth. I see these stories in the media, giving a hero's welcome, and don't get me wrong, they deserve, because it inspires us. So it should be reported. I'm not saying there should be a media censorship or blackout, but the media should tell the truth, and they're not telling the truth what this prosecutor in Wayne County is doing, and the exonerees are not all stepping up and correcting the media about this. Every single one of those 28 people who were released, I say except Walter Phillips and maybe one other, Kim Worthy never declared them innocent. She vacated the convictions without prejudice, and I'm going to explain, and Mr. Mack, you understand what that means, to her right to forever and always recharge them with murder. And in Michigan, there is no statute of limitations on murder. You're not going to hear this from Detroit News, because they're in lockstep with this prosecutor in misinforming the public, because it boosts up her popularity for election time, right? So she looks like a hero because she freed 28 people, but you haven't heard of the hundreds she denied, who had more compelling evidence of innocence than some of these 28. How do I know that? Well, I'm not just guessing. I worked on some of the cases. And let me add this. So a dismissal without prejudice is not an exoneration. Let me say that again. A dismissal without prejudice, Kim Worthy, is not an exoneration. In fact, in some of her press releases, she specifically says this is not an exoneration. So are you talking out of both sides of your mouth? Are you saying you still believe they're guilty and you let them go of murder? What are you saying? Why is she afraid to use that word, they're innocent? She will not do it. But the Detroit News will report these stories that, oh, he was found innocent. That's a colossal lie. She vacated the conviction. And Mr. Mack, you as an attorney, you understand what that means. That's a legal technicality that she can forever, just as easy as she let them out by signing that stipulated order of dismissal without prejudice. Hello, if she gets new evidence or a new witness comes forward and she's convinced they're guilty, she can sign a stipulated order and have them sit right back to Jackson prison. It hasn't happened yet, thank God. But nothing stops her from recharging she doesn't have to give them, she doesn't have to recharge them because they were not dismissed on the merits. And double jeopardy, guess what? Doesn't apply here. The case was dismissed without prejudice. There's case law that says this, that a dismissal without prejudice is not a ruling on the merits of that the defendant is innocent and he can be retried. But she doesn't even have to try them because this is why she loves to dismiss these cases without prejudice. She has the power to forever and always pick them back up if tomorrow she's convinced that Daryl Siggers is guilty. In fact, she specifically said she didn't believe he was innocent, but I'm going to let him go anyway because the police committed misconduct. But do you believe the evidence shed light on his innocence or not? She doesn't. She wants the praise, but she doesn't want to be challenged with those questions. And the media, again, is going along with her playbook. And I think it's wrong to deceive the public like this. And I see it happening. And I will not show up at any of these rallies and lie and say, yep, he was found innocent. No, he was not. She did not declare anyone of those 28 people innocent.
He's absolutely correct. And if you remember, J Love, when you and I took and went downtown to support them, that's exactly what I was on camera telling those guys.
Yeah,
that they can't allow politicians to define for them what innocence is.
And this is political. This is more political than it has. It has nothing to do with justice and what is right.
Absolutely.
This is political. It's to help her image, and I think it's grossly deceiving the public. Have you seen the Detroit News or WDIV or anyone say, "Oh, by the way, his conviction was dismissed without prejudice"? So guess what happens at these rallies? The public attends and they see the exoneree talking. They think, "Oh, he must have been found innocent because he's standing here." He was never found innocent. Why does she have a problem using that word? Why does she have a problem declaring them innocent? She will not do it. And it's deceitful. The media is a part of this because, like I said, when you look at all the stories on the Detroit News, I have never seen one of them say, so-and-so, his case was dismissed without prejudice, so he wasn't found innocent. In fact, I've been monitoring some of these cases, and I got some of the deposition transcripts. Where they even testified under oath. No, we do not believe so and so was innocent, but we let him go based on police misconduct. So, wait a minute. Does that mean you let a convicted killer go? What are you saying here? Are you talking out both sides of your mouth? Why is it so hard for you to declare innocence?
Right, and if she is not taking accountability, I mean, if she's not accepting that, they're innocent, that means they have to take accountability. They're not taking any accountability. Nothing is changing and nothing is happening.
It's an easy way out. Instead of giving them a new trial, and it's an easy way out, and it helps her image. And like I love what Tia said. You can't throw me hush money and expect me not to still speak the truth. So there you have it. And I just think when I see these, they did that in Devontae Sanford's case, and his innocence was, evidence of his innocence was overwhelming, and she still refused to confess his innocence. But again, this is in her favor, not the exoneree's favor, because guess what? In Michigan, where there is no statute of limitations on murder, you will always have that ghost on your back. Exactly. She won't be prosecuted forever. And let me tell you something else what these dismissals without prejudice mean. Nothing stops her successor from reviewing these cases. And if she decides, I think Kim Worthy was wrong, they can have that person put back in prison. Okay? No matter how much wicked compensation he got, the money ain't going to keep them from doing that. And I think it's deceitful. I think it's a disgrace. And we have to be on guard that we got, like Tia said, I can't surrender my principles by having you throw money at me. I'm not going to do this. And I guess I'm on the side where I have nothing to lose by speaking the truth. I'm not, thank God I don't. And I'm not going to cover this up. But I think it's a dishonor and disgrace what the local media here in Detroit is doing about reporting about these wrongful conviction cases.
The local media here in Detroit don't speak on nothing on behalf of anything that's corrupt or unjust. Kim Worthy just was on NBC highlighting her wrongful conviction integrity unit, and she was talking about the exonerees and stuff, and she was getting national media attention. Meanwhile,
because they had visited Washtenaw County, she wanted to take credit for having started this situation. But as is being pointed out right now, this is not simple semantics. The language that she used disallowed them to take and be compensated. It doesn't allow them to be compensated because the statute that they created that would allow you to be compensated require you to actually be exonerated. Yes. And they have never been exonerated. I have been trying to encourage these guys to get with Michigan Liberation and other organizations to sit down so that they can take and create policy and submit to the legislator different policies that would include the definition of what an exoneration is. That if the state does not have the proof of their guilt, not that they take and say that hey, we don't believe in your the integrity of this conviction, so we're gonna let you go and not try you again. But they're not using the word, and he's correct. The only person that's using the word is the guys themselves and the media. It's right. Just like we need to take and reject the idea of being returned citizens. They need to reject the idea of being exoneree. You are not exoneree under the legal definition of what an exoneree is. Exactly. Before they released to any of them, Kim Worthy and Schuette, the former attorney general here in the state of Michigan, had the biggest voice in the taking and drafting that statute. And that statute was intended to exclude the very people they turned around and let go.
They've even deceived Dateline Detroit, CNN. I saw the reports there. And I noticed when they interview her, she loves the praise. She doesn't like the hot button questions. Like, for example, nobody has challenged her on this. Well, why are you dismissing these cases without prejudice if they're innocent? That's a good question. Wouldn't you think you want to ask her?
Basic question.
Exactly. And she wants the praise, but she doesn't want nobody questioning her. And you're hearing about the 28, but you're not hearing about all the other cases that were more than that these guys are truly innocent. They slammed the door on them. And you're not going to hear about it because, again, the media is silent on giving balanced reporting. But I will tell you this. I've seen cases where there was more compelling evidence of someone's innocence who were denied, and it shocks me. It shocks me. And when I compare it with somebody else's case that got out, and then keep in mind, I worked on some of these cases, even some of the ones who recently got out. I know there's a problem. I see there's a problem. And let me tell you something else. Those 1,500 cases that they keep complaining they have, well, how do you explain that you gave action to some guy who was only there for 6 or 9 months? How did his case jump in front of those 12 or 1,300 that you've been holding on to for 2 years? Somebody explain this to me. Well, so-and-so's been so I don't want to hear about, it's not our problem. When you instituted this conviction integrity unit in 2018, you should have known the magnitude of the problem of wrongful convictions was going to mushroom. It's not our problem, and I don't want to hear it. But how do you explain to the guy whose case has been collecting dust at your office for 3 years that you're not going to give him any action, but you just gave a guy action whose case was only in front of you for 5 or 6 months. How do you explain that? They won't explain it. They don't want you asking them any questions. They just want you to praise them like they're the saints who came on a white horse in the ghetto. I'm gonna tell you what's happening here, okay? They want the praise, but they don't want the responsibility. And Kim Worthy is okay with that because she's a politician. There's nothing, it has more to do about politics than justice. Let me tell you something else, what I've noticed with some of these recent exonerees who got released. I've also noticed a pattern that if you're lucky enough to have someone from SATO representing you, your chances are better than some solo practitioner in Midland, Michigan. And you tell me that's fair? You tell me that your system is fair and transparent? There's a pattern. Like if you're from the Innocent Clinic in Ann Arbor, Dave Moran's group, you stand a better chance with Wayne County on getting your conviction vacated than some Joe Blow who's a sole practitioner working out of his house. My point being, they don't care what the evidence shows. This is more about politics than innocence. And again, they throw hush money and they threw hush money at some people, and they're not going to tell you these things. But I see it, and it makes me sick. It really does.
And those words, exoneree, and it's trendy right now. You know, it's getting a lot of attention because, you know, we're talking about reform and we're talking about change. And so even in a corrupt city, if you say exoneree, it's like, oh, okay, well, they're doing the right thing because they got exonerees. However, we get more and more people continue the wrongful conviction line is still going, you know.
And you know what's also interesting in some of these cases, and Varica, you can agree or not, because you worked on some of these cases. I think you said when you were a jailhouse lawyer, and I think you will agree with me. I've worked on some of them, and I've seen some of them that I haven't worked on. I reviewed what they call the 6-500 motions. You've heard that term a lot. What's interesting with some of these exonerees who got out is that they argued actual innocence in their 6-500 motions, but they never pressed the prosecutor for a complete declaration of their innocence. They were okay with her letting them go without prejudice based on these Brady violations. So my point being, they never got an innocence ruling. But you're going to the media saying I was found innocent. You abandoned your innocence claim, and you were okay with shortchanged justice because you let the prosecutor let you go without prejudice to her right to retry you again. A dismissal without prejudice is not an exoneration. I can't say that enough. And in the legal profession, we know this. We know this.
One of those guys can take and say something to piss her off, and she can charge him with murder tomorrow. That's where throwing hush money comes in. That's where and it's so perverse. My point being, she has the upper hand in these reviews. It's the fox watching the hen house. Her prosecutors prosecuted these people. Well, don't you think it's interesting? In none of the cases she's reviewed, she has confessed misconduct by her office. It's always Detroit Police's fault. Yeah, there are. But the police and the prosecutors work hand in hand. And I know one prosecutor in particular is still working at her office who was slammed by the Court of Appeals for her unethical conduct in one of the wrongful conviction cases. Guess what? She's still working with Kim Worthy. Kim Worthy didn't fire her, didn't confess that she committed any misconduct. That's the problem when you have the fox watching the hen house with these reviews, if you will. Let me tell you something else about these reviews. We also found out in one case that despite their claims that they are independent of the prosecutor's office, that's not totally true. I'm talking about, these CIU units all over Michigan. They work down the hall from this prosecutor. I would like to think it's truly independent and fair and impartial, but the experience tells me otherwise, that it's not. And I don't know how much I can say, but I just find that it's so perverse what's really going on. And again, it has more to do with the politics of these reviews than it does about justice and what is right.
Attorney Hugo, Matt?
Well, that's true. One of the greatest things I think has been said tonight is elaborating on that dismissal with or without prejudice. As a preliminary matter in the criminal justice system, after the probable cause initial meeting, they've got a preliminary examination. And the standard of proof is so low at a preliminary examination, you can really bind over a ham sandwich, okay? Somebody's come and say, yeah, that's the ham sandwich that robbed my store. You know, and the rationale being in a facetious way, well, it's a jury question. Did the ham sandwich rob the store or not? What I'm saying is the system is skewed so much from the very beginning with standards of proof that are so low, it gives an automatic glide path to prosecutors from the very beginning. So even if a judge was to say, for example, at preliminary examination, what normally happens, a lot of cases I handle is the alleged victim doesn't show up, all right? Sometimes maybe it's a domestic situation or what have you, and the alleged victim doesn't show up. So if the alleged victim doesn't show up, then the case is dismissed. But it's dismissed without prejudice, without prejudice. And for people who don't understand, that means the prosecutor reserves the right, with the court's blessing, I might add, to bring that charge again, okay? And unless there's a statute of limitations, that person could live with the specter of a charge for years and years and years. So the only way for a person to be fully, quote unquote, exonerated without the possibility of having being recharged again is through a court action, not a prosecutor action, all right? Because a prosecutor can dismiss a case for lack of evidence, but it doesn't mean he or she can't bring that case again. But if a person is, let's say, found not guilty, as we all know, in a trial, well, then double jeopardy prevents that case from ever being brought up again. So I agree that weapon of being dismissed without prejudice is a big cudgel over anybody that's considered themselves an exoneree's head.
It reserves to the prosecutor the right to retry them, or not even retry them. I consulted with a few lawyers, Mr. Mack, who told me what's so dangerous about these dismissals without prejudice is that she doesn't even have to retry them, just like she didn't retry them when she let them go. They just signed they signed these stipulated orders where the judge signs it and the prosecutor and defense sign it. It's an order. A couple of attorneys told me not only does double jeopardy not bar them from going back to prison if she ever gets new evidence that they committed these offenses, she doesn't have to retry them. Just as easy as she let them go, she can present an order to the court along with the new evidence and say, you know what, we were mistaken. Daryl Siggers, or I don't want to pick on, I'm just giving examples. Joe Blow, for example, he was guilty. Sign the warrant and get him picked up right now. It will be done. And you will be driven back to Jackson Prison, and you'll be standing there stopping. Wait a minute, give me a new trial. Give me a new trial. No, your case was dismissed without prejudice, sir. You were not found innocent. You never were found innocent. And I don't want this to happen to one of these exonerees before the others wake up and say, wait a minute, I don't want this dismissal without prejudice. Well, you better hope that they never get new evidence, because just like the defense can get new evidence of his innocence, they can get new evidence of your involvement in this crime. And that's why these prosecutors, and especially Kim Worthy, insists on dismissal without prejudice. It protects her, and it protects her. It gives her the authority to re-imprison them, not retry them. She can have them picked up just as easily as she let them go.
It's terrible.
It's scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
They will always have that ghost on their back,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no statute of limitations on murder in Michigan. They will always have that ghost on their back until the day they die. So you're free physically, but you're not free legally. You'll never be free legally. You're walking out here, you're enjoying life, and you're entitled to it. But you never got an innocence you never got a declaration from a court or a prosecutor that you were innocent. Those claims were abandoned. You got shortchanged justice is what you got. But you'll never be legally free. Not on a dismissal without prejudice.
Wow.
Wow.
So sad.
And you know what? I think that we have to continue to put before the public the narcissism that's in these leadership positions.
Mm-hmm.
We have to because if she can go ahead and continue to do these kinds of things based upon her own low self-esteem, because nobody wants to admit that they're wrong or that they've made a mistake. Okay. And now we're beyond making a mistake. Making a mistake means that you really were trying to do something right. But when you knowingly go outside of those boundaries to prove yourself right, you're going the extra mile using extra money. I just told my cousin not long ago, I'm gonna start court watching because I'm seeing and hearing too much. And at some point, these officials need to see eyes are on you. There's a report card being made, and the report card is saying that you are spending too much money trying to hide your wrongdoing. And economically, if we looked at how much money we've spent, and I think they don't want all the people coming out who were wrongfully convicted because there's not enough money that can handle it. We don't have a budget for it. There's no budget for the masses, and even the ones that go to the Supreme Court. I think, what is it? Only less than 30% get turned around.
Less than that. Less than that, like 6%.
The Supreme Court reviews by the Supreme Court are discretionary. I think less than even 10% of cases ever get heard by the and even the U.S. Supreme Court is even harder.
Yeah,
probably about something like 2%.
Yes, less than 10%.
Yeah. So this is why, that again, we're talking about the blind denials of the system, the denials, don't want to deny, denying people their right of innocence, just to get the photo op, so they can be reelected. Look, I did this, and have all these people in the picture with them. But little do they know they're not even really free, so, and what's that? None of us is free until we're all free.
Well, let me share. Can I, before I lose this thought?
Go ahead.
About a year or two ago, if you all remember, this came up in the civil lawsuit in Devontae Sanford's federal lawsuit. And this goes along with what I'm saying about these dismissals without prejudice. And he called me. I hope his mother is still on the phone because she was on that call. She remembers.
Yeah, she's on here.
The prosecutor came creeping when the Detroit News reported that they believed there was new evidence of Devontae Sanford's involvement in those murders after he was released. Allegedly, there was a preliminary DNA result that confirmed one of the victims' blood was on his tennis shoes. And again, this came up after he was released without prejudice. And it came up in the civil lawsuit. Kim Worthy's spokeswoman was interviewed by the Detroit News, and she said, and I quote her. I won't forget that quote. It goes to show what I've been saying about these dismissals without prejudice, that she can pick them back up. They were ready to pick him back up because she told the Detroit News, we are going to wait for the final results before we make a decision. And Devontae called me in a panic because in 2016, when he was released, I expressed my reservation. Then I told him, you are not found innocent. They dismiss your case without prejudice. And he called me wondering, why did Kim Worthy's spokeswoman make that comment in the Detroit News? He got the hint he got her hint that they were considering, if the evidence was strong enough, they were going to pick him back up on that murder. And I told him, because your case was dismissed without prejudice, you were never found innocent. Legally, you were never found innocent. Thankfully, they didn't pick him back up. Here we are 2 years later, and I don't know whatever became of that evidence. My understanding is that the federal civil lawsuit is still pending in federal court. But it goes to my point that I made here for the other exonerees. You better look at what they were ready to do to him, because if they ever get new evidence that you were involved in it, they will pick you back up. And double jeopardy doesn't bar them from doing that.
Wow.
One of the cases, the last case I mentioned to you, I had a case before I left prison, and that gentleman is now home. But his case struck me in that the police that had took and lied on him in the affidavit had did the same thing in multiple cases. And I mentioned that on this show multiple times. This officer took and literally, the only thing that is different in his complaint in several other cases I've seen was the names of the accused. The way he described the case are all like he just pleasurized, like he had no creativity whatsoever. They released the one guy who case that I worked it on. He eventually got help from the Innocent Project and they got him out. But there are several other people that are in prison by the same police. My concern is where those other officers at. And even more important than that is why her office isn't taking responsibility for this. Remember, a police cannot bring charges. All they do is take and submit their findings, their investigation. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. I work in an innocent integrity unit. All I can do is take a look at something, write up a report, and I submit it to my superior. She have to make a decision of whether or not she want to submit it to the county prosecutor, and the county prosecutor have to make the final decision whether or not what to do with that case. So it's not like an officer can take and just go out and say, I'm charging the person. You can tell whatever kind of lie you want. It got to go across the prosecutor's desk. So it's really ridiculous that we keep talking about polices when we talk about corruption. Okay, the prosecutor, these people are much more educated, supposedly, than a police. Okay, these are people that has a doctor's, a juris, or some type of law degree. Okay, you got to have a law degree to be the county prosecutor. Okay, and even to work in that office as an attorney, you have to take and have a law degree. You don't have to have that to be a police officer. Okay, you don't have to have that to be a police officer.
I agree.
You know, and so it's kind of like they're using this as a smoke screen. I just feel sorry not for those guys. Like when we went downtown to support them. If you look at the camera, when I was, and the same thing when you was talking, they were talking and not even listening. The very thing that this gentleman has been talking about in regards of the definition of acquittal, when I was mentioning that, none of them was listening to me. Exactly. The people that were standing in front of me listening to me were ordinary citizens. All of the guys that had been quote unquote exonerated was giving each other high fives for being out there talking.
Right.
You know?
They're in denial.
You know, and I'm concerned. I'm concerned because just like he say, you can get a different prosecutor in office. And that prosecutor can take and decide that I want to lock them all back up.
Nothing would stop. Listen, Kim Worthy's not going to be a prosecutor forever. Nothing stops her successor. God forbid we get a white conservative prosecutor, whatever their color. We get a conservative prosecutor in there, like Justice Young when he was on the Supreme Court, as conservative as he was justice. But nothing stops her successor prosecutor from reviewing these cases and concluding, oh, Kim Worthy made a mistake. I don't think this guy should be out. Pick him up. It might set a precedent. And what's going to happen is it's going to send nerves through all the other exonerees. Am I next? I just want you all to be aware there is this potential.
Yeah.
Again, as they came creeping when the Detroit News reported that there was new evidence of blood on Devontae Sanford's shoes.
I remember that.
Her office came creeping.
Yeah.
They were coming for him again. But you are doing a dishonor and a disgrace. You, the exonerees who don't want to admit this, the legal technicalities. You are doing a dishonor by not admitting you were never declared innocent, and you're letting the Detroit News misinform the public like that out there. I looked at the National Registry of Exonerations. I see their names up there. You don't see no mention that his conviction was vacated without prejudice. It's a deceit. It's deceitful on the local and the national level. And I'm not afraid to admit somebody who's innocent. That's why I do this work. But I bust my behind off arguing someone is innocent, and then the prosecutor comes along and says, okay, I got a better deal. I'll just vacate the conviction without prejudice and let him go. And let's all have a party. That's what's happening here. Let's all have a party. Let me file my wicked claim. I'm free. I'm free physically, but you're not free legally. You better hope some hater or some new evidence don't come along and meet with that prosecutor and said, I know he did it. And here's my proof. And they pick you back up. And you'll be stomping, saying, wait a minute, double jeopardy bars this. No, it doesn't, my friend. Your conviction was vacated without prejudice. There's case law that says that's not a ruling on the merits. They just set your conviction aside. And more importantly, look at her press releases. Something else the Detroit News doesn't report. I've read her press releases. She specifically says, this is not an exoneration. So why is he out here? He is innocent, but she won't declare it.
Yeah, and it's a shame that she went from the local news to a national news recently. And okay, if the local news failed to take and be that critical, it's a shame that national media didn't take and scrutinize that more.
And Varica, they intentionally, the national and the local media, they intentionally don't challenge her on these dismissals without prejudice. They'll give her the praise, but they won't say, well, wait a minute, you dismissed this case without prejudice. That doesn't sound like he's innocent, ma'am. They won't put her on the defensive. And she loves the praise. She loves the praise.
But they too are doing the same thing she's doing. When it's time to take and like throw somebody under the bus, they can come back and do that. You know, they set her up just like she's setting them up. If they can decide they want to turn her into a villain, then they'll turn around and then ask those tough questions.
Right.
You know, so it's the same game. They playing the same game with her that she's playing with them. You don't remember me, Roberto. I met you when I came home from prison. You was working on a young man's case whose father asked me to look at the case too. We done talked several times on telephone. You don't recall me, huh?
I don't. Maybe we can do a sidebar. I've worked on a few cases and
yeah. Last name Blevins?
Oh, I do remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember talking to you, but I know about that case. Yes.
Yeah, we talked. We done talked several times. You called me, I done called you. His girlfriend, I done talked to his girlfriend. I done talked to his father. I knew the family. You know, he wasn't born when I went to prison, but I used to run with a cousin of his, and, who died under suspicious circumstances. Everyone in the neighborhood and his family believed that the Detroit police killed him. A family member of his down at the 10th precinct. In fact, the last time I probably was with that person, we both was arrested on a related case because they arrested everybody in the neighborhood. And they threatened us then that if any of us wasn't tried and convicted on that circumstances, that they was going to take matters in their own hand. And he subsequently went to prison and got out, and then he was in another situation, and under those circumstances, he allegedly supposed to killed himself there in the precinct.
Yeah. But, I helped Blevins get his homicide file, and he was very appreciative. And I don't know, I know he consulted with counsel after that, and but he had a hard time getting his homicide file, and apparently there was some helpful information in there for him. So I wish him the best. I really do. You know, I wish. You know, I don't have a problem declaring, but it's not my call to declare somebody innocent, right? And it's the prosecutors and the judges' jobs to declare people innocent. But I think that's where the change needs to come in. You know, what's so hard to confess wrongdoing and declare innocence? Because as a prosecutor, you're supposed to be a minister of justice. So you're supposed to confess innocence as well as send the guilty person to prison. If somebody's guilty and there's overwhelming evidence of their guilt, I don't have a problem saying you shouldn't be out here. Mm-hmm. So she would get more respect from me if she did that. And it's like she's afraid to confess innocence. And I think you're doing a dishonor even to the exonerees by releasing them the way you're doing. But anyway, we can go on and on about that. But
right. But I thank you for coming on, and I want you to come back again when we can see you.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the camera working so that everybody can see my smiley face now that I got my bridge work done. And
yeah, so we gotta get you back soon. Roberto, do you have any last words?
Well, you know what? I know we've been going on, and I want to make sure I give everybody ample time, but I am just so blessed that we have this platform to awaken people. Keep, be silent if wrongfully convicted, and just remember that just because you're innocent doesn't mean that you are innocent. And that's what we have to know. Just because we are innocent does not mean that we are innocent, because that's how people who are wrongfully convicted, they are already innocent. And we need to continue this platform and continue our work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roberto. Attorney Hugo Mack.
Well, I want to say this. One of the things that really, really emboldens me is expressing to the people in prison forums like this how very easy it is to convict somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to understand, you're going to be convicted by one or two groups of people, either judges or juries. All right? 99% of people that are on the bench today are on the bench today on a platform of law and order, tough on crime. All right? 99% of them. You've got a few judges, a few outliers. There may be one or two of them recently in Washington County, all right, who don't have that philosophy. Those people are rare and far between, all right? One or two of them recently in Washington County, all right, who don't have that philosophy. Those people are rare and far between, all right? One or two of them recently in Washington County, who don't have that philosophy.
Go ahead, Attorney Hugo Mack.
I'm sorry. Is there feedback on?
Yeah, go ahead.
So in any event, what I'm saying is that the problem that we've got, as I said, the primary problem is us. It's us that sit on that jury. It's us that refuse to be on a jury because we don't want to take the time out of our busy work schedules to be on a jury. And I'm saying this, I'm pleading to all people. I don't care. You said, well, I got the baby to look after. I got my job. Look, I respect all those things. But you not being on that jury could be the difference between a man or woman who is actually not guilty, walking out that courtroom or staying within the Michigan Department of Corrections for the next 20, 30, 40, or 50 years, all right? So before you turn your back on a Varica or a Hugo or a Trichet or Tia Littlejohn, you remember that defendant's chair is the most fantastic anomaly in the criminal justice system in America. So why do you say that? I say that because that defendant's chair has got everybody's and nobody's name on it at the same damn time. Okay? Mm-hmm. So don't think that you can somehow escape that because of where you live, because of your money, because of your church, or whatever, because of your race, especially because of your race, because for white supremacists, they're finding out that chair will fit them nicely just as well, all right? That's what they're going to find out in God's justice. So thank you for the opportunity. God bless you. I love and respect all of you, and I look forward to seeing you all again.
Same here, Mr. Mack. Thank you.
Yeah, so we can't say it enough. A wrongful conviction can happen to anyone. There's no makeup or description or nothing. Anybody could be wrongfully convicted of something they didn't do. So just keep, we have to keep spreading this. This is a 24/7 job, but we have to, so we can eliminate other people. I don't want what happened to my son happen to anybody else. I mean, it was the worst experience almost, I think, in my life, just going through that whole thing. And even today, we're still going through it. It's not over. So, we had to educate ourselves, our neighbors, our friends, our family. We're going to have these conversations, ask people to join you to, share this link. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon. We're on Google. If you can't watch it live, you can listen to it. iHeart. Share as many people as you can this format, because we have to keep educating our people. We can't keep voting these same people in. We have to look for people who have our agenda, who are focused on the people. That's what we have to do. Thank you guys for joining us. Varica, did you have anything you wanted to leave us with?
I would like to make a observation here, and that is that we know that Detroit lost its crime lab, and what you actually see Kim Worthy doing with these cases is a continuation of why the crime lab was lost. It was lost because there was no integrity in these cases that's supposed to have been investigated. And all she's saying is exactly what the state police said in regards of the crime lab, is that these cases lack the integrity of a proper justice system. And so they closed the crime lab down. And that's what she's doing with these cases. These are not actually cases where people are actually being found not guilty. The vast majority of these cases are cases where they are questioning the integrity of the investigation of those cases and its process. It not only includes the police, but it includes the prosecutor's office as well as the courthouse. Okay, that's how we should take in view these so-called acquittals. Okay, so that's what I would say about that matter. And if I was to give any advice to these guys, I would advise them, take advantage of the unique situation that you guys have, where you have this togetherness among yourselves, and get with other organizations to establish yourself an organization and begin to advocate around policies, not around your own individual case, your own individual personality, but around policies that address the justice system. And one of the things that you want to do as your motto is to get rid of that case that says that even an innocent person can go to prison if they had a fair trial. That's ludicrous.
Right.
Can I add on to that real quick? I know we're cutting for time. He raised a good point. This is the second conviction integrity unit she instituted. The first one that Varica is talking about was in 2009. That was when the Michigan State Police found an alarming rate of errors involving the ballistics division, and they shut down the Detroit crime lab. And let me say this: that was on the eve of the city of Detroit filing bankruptcy. The city was already in the red, and Varica, guess how much money she got for that first review unit from the city of Detroit, which was illegal funding. And that's when I learned that the prosecutor gets her funding from the county executive, not the state legislature. And again, these exonerees going to the state legislature, pleading with them to give Kim Worthy funding, it's never going to happen. And because statutorily, her funding has to come from the county. She's a county employee, not a state employee. Well, back to my point, she got $3 million for the first conviction integrity unit back in 2009, when the city was already in the red. That was illegal funding. She got money from the city of Detroit to review those cases. No, guess what? Nobody got a new trial. What happened with all that money? Nobody got a new trial. That unit, Barack, you're right, was also disbanded. You don't hear any more about those ballistics division cases. She got the money and the unit was shut down.
Wow. We could go on, but we're going to stop here. We're going to have you back, Abdul.
I'm gonna get my camera working. Because,
yes, let me know as soon as your camera is working. We're going to have you back. I thank everybody for joining us this evening. We went a little longer, but hey, this is important.
The vibe is good. It is important. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next Friday.
Thank you. All of you. I appreciate you.
Yes, I appreciate you all too.